support our idea, and you may have chances to design your own chart. Here I provide 4 tips to design an effective chart for you. They are: use charts, not tables; to eliminate the border; to use color properly; and use same color when you are mentioning the same thing. Let's start from the first one. Use charts rather than table. Charts means 图表 and table means 表格. Take this as an example. Here is a table. And you'll find that the audience may read this table column by column or row by row. It's quite difficult for you to tell them to focus on the part you are talking about. So that's why I think I would rather use chart than table. For example, turn this table into this chart. There are several advantages using charts rather than tables. For example, if I want to emphasize on those values above this value, then you can easily draw some colors on that, and that can help your audience to realize what you are talking about more. Or you can circle the key points that you are going to talk about and you want your audience to focus on. Or even you can use the techniques you learned in the exercise A to put a shade on other bars and force your audience to look at the middle black bar. That's the power of use the charts. See, using charts rather than table do have several advantages, right? And moreover, you have also choose the right charts to present your data. For example, you should know how to use pie chart to represent percentage, or use bar chart to present some data related to its length. That's point 1, use charts rather than table. And then point 2 is to eliminate the border. What does that mean? Take this slide as an example. You'll see that there are lots of borders circling A, B, C, and D. If we take out all these borders, that is 边框, and add more colors to these circles, the slide will become like this. Well, I believe that this slide is a little bit better than the previous one. Why? Let me use a picture to explain. Do you know what's that animal? Zebra, good. Why zebra are born with these stripes? It means the black lines on them. Why? One of the theory is these stripes can distract the players because they live on the grass, and these stripes just like the grass. And if they are moving, it's quite difficult for lions to catch them, to catch their throat directly. That's the usage of these stripes. And when we come back to the slide, those borders on the slide, just like these kind of black stripes on the zebra. So if you want to distract your audience, that you don't want them to know where is your key point, so just use the border, use the stripes. But you want them to know more about you, right? So I will recommend you to eliminate the stripe like this. And I will use this example to show you the power of charts and without what the chart will be without the border. This is my example. At the first sight of this slide, you'll find that this picture, just like the annoying advertisements on other blogs, right? Use the techniques we've learned in the first exercise. You can take out the gray backgrounds and light the words up. To reduce all the noise, you will make this slide become this. If you are facing a group of cell phone experts, I think this is enough. But to some normal audience, this table didn't show up how powerful these batteries are. And at this time, charts can visualize your data like this. And if we charge this battery with green bars, and you will know how strong the A-brand batteries are. See? You can visualize your data and you makes your audience realize your content in a much more shorter time. In a much shorter time. That's the power of charts, using charts rather than table. And that's my example. And let's move on to the third point, use color properly. And I would say this is a quite difficult section in today's SGD, but I think that is also the most useful one. So let's pay attention to this part. Go. This slide. I want you to guess what's wrong with this slide. What's wrong with it? Okay, I know that with the color, there are some improper usage to the color, but you don't know how to tell me in proper way. So let's analyze this slide in the point of view of effective information. First one is the blue background. You can see clearly the blue background and also these red arrows. But they are not the key points. The key points are here. But you can see clearly the topic is, right? That's the wrong usage to the color. If you want to fix this slide, you have to know some concept about the color. So let's talk about color from the coloring. Then I will introduce three properties about the coloring. There are hue, which is 色相, brightness, 明度, and saturation, 饱和度. First, let's start from hue. Hue is a correlation between colors. If you choose two colors, if they are close to each other on the coloring, that means the more difficult for you to distinguish between them, right? These two kind of oranges. If they are far from each other, we can easily identify both colors of them. For example, it's quite easy for you to distinguish purple from orange. This is the concept of hue. And the next one is about brightness. About brightness, the color, I take orange as an example. The color in the middle is what we call true color. And if we add more black into the true color, the color will be a little bit dark and the brightness will go down. And if we add more white into that orange, into the true color, the brightness will go up like this. That's the concept about brightness. And the last one is the degree of saturation. Compared to the true color, brightness is we add black or white into the true color. About saturation, if something have low saturation, that means you add water into the true colors. And what is about high saturation? That is your new brought iPhone that will have a very high degree of saturation. Okay? And that's the 3 points about colors. Then, the next slide, I will demonstrate those three points. What's the relationship between these 3 points and the effective information? Next slide will be really important. Please pay attention to that. Okay, start. This is the coloring, and I take green, I take orange as an example. If the color is first close to the true color, second, form large angle between the color and the background. Third, highly saturated, That means the messages you convey will be stronger. Please note that it is the message becomes stronger, not information. So in other words, that means if you use these three rules improperly, you may amplify the noise. So we should maximize the information instead of noise, right? These three rules is how we use the concept of hue, brightness, and saturation to enhance your information. Okay? Good. So let's go back to this slide. Now you know what's wrong with this slide, because the background is true colors. It has the best information, but it is useless. On the other hand, we should use true colors on key step instead of the background. And for example, these arrows, I want them to be gray, which has the lowest degree of saturation. That doesn't mean too much for you. So if I were the designer, I will turn this slide into this one. I only change the color. You see, we use the true color to mention the key steps. And these arrows are turned to gray, which is an unsaturated color. So at the first sight of this slide, I believe that you can focus on the key step at your first sight. That's the power of use color properly. Am I clear at this part? Good. Okay, and let's go to the last part, which is use same color when you are mentioning the same thing. Now I'm going to use again to demonstrate why this point is important. Here are some numbers, and I will give you only 3 seconds to do something. That activity is, please count. How many 2s are there? 1, 2, 3. Next slide. How many 2s are there? 1, 2, 3. Next. How many 2s are there? 1, 2, 3. Next. How many 2s are there? 7. Yes, you are right. So when we go back to the previous slide, at the beginning, I didn't give you any color hints. So it's quite difficult for you to distinguish all the 2s in these numbers. But after I add some colors, at this time you will notice that, whoa, there are some blue 3s. But you notice that, whoa, there is a blue 2. There is a red 2, but there is also a red 1. So that's a case that you don't use the same color to mentioning same thing. That will really distract your audience as you're experienced. So this one I use only blue on 3s and red on 2s. This one is much more clear than the previous one. And in this situation, because I only want you to count those 2s, so I can even eliminate the noise, which is 3. So I only use red on those 2s. So use same color on the same thing. That can create a kind of relationship between the color and the object you are mentioning. That's a way to help audience to realize the content of your slide. Okay? So these 4 tips for you to design your good chart. Use charts rather than table, eliminate the border, use color properly with the concept of hue, brightness, and saturation. And less things to mentioning when you are mentioning same thing, use the same color. Great. Let's come to the exercise B. Please come to that website